I'm contributing this photograph of the Power Rangers to make sure that the future remembers these remarkable heroes.
We sure do, Miss Appleby. We sure do. Welcome, folks, to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1, an artist's perspective review. This is the first TV show review on my channel, but my established artist perspective review formula will come back. I'll be talking about the storyline, but also artistic influences, references and ideas from other movies and TV, plus anything else I feel is relevant for my review. Power Rangers is more, dare I say, artistically interesting and with merit in some seasons than in others. So while that is part of today's epic video, I will be talking more about the influences it had from TV and movies before this, as well as what it inspired thereafter in its own franchise and beyond. Power Rangers reflects the decade it was made in, with recent seasons feeling very in the now. However, I'm here to talk today about 90s Power Rangers, as that's the version I grew up with along with 2000s Power Rangers, which are the best. I'm most familiar with those seasons, and I'd love to talk about the impact the show had on me as a fan. This video is coming out in August 2023, the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers. Happy 30th birthday, Power Rangers! Before I continue, feel free to like, share and subscribe to my channel, hitting the notification bell for when my videos go live. To celebrate this franchise, let's start at the beginning. Our story begins not with Hayao Saban, but with the late great Stan Lee. Before Saban adapted a Super Sentai series into Power Rangers, Stan Lee tried to do a similar thing with an earlier Sentai, 1981's Taiyo Sentai Sun Vulcan. Yes, it is pronounced like that. Stan Lee could not find any investors for the project, and so the idea was put by the wayside. This is despite Toei, the originators of Super Sentai among other products like Voltron, which was brought to America. They already had a tangled web with Marvel, wink wink, having created their own live-action Spider-Man series in 1978. But further into the saga of bringing Sentai to the Western world, Saban Productions, later Saban Entertainment, they were a leader in co-producing kid shows from the 80s to the 2000s. Overseen by Hayao Saban and Shuki Levy, they were responsible for music made for kid shows. For example, He-Man, She-Ra, Inspector Gadget, and The Real Ghostbusters. They're also credited on 1992's X-Men the Animated Series legendary theme, collaborating with longtime star composer Ron Wasserman. Saban products were often more animated than live action, but MMPR helped them step into that world. In 1984, Hayao Saban was relaxing between business meetings in Tokyo, Japan. Flipping through the channels, Saban saw Sentai's then-current show, 1984's Chodenchi Bioman. Yes, it is pronounced like that. He saw
5 kids in their superhero costumes, jumping around and kicking some monster butt.
Yep, that's Power Rangers' epic and well-loved premise. Seeing the potential, Saban tried to adapt what he'd seen and sell it to the Western world, business-wise. And this is why Power Rangers, and shows like it, have endured, is because a lot of money is saved, as up to roughly 50% of each episode of your proposed show has already been completed. It's just a matter of rescoring, redoing the Foley for, and English dubbing the Japanese footage. Also reshooting footage with American actors to create a new show. Making the show on a low budget, and with confidence in its success, you can stand to profit healthily in your business.
What a totally genius vision, Mr. Saban!
After cutting together a pilot adaptation of Bioman, and then later another pilot based on Kyoryu Sentai Ranger that MMPR would source footage from, Saban carried a VHS tape of his work around with him.
So retro.
He began pitching his idea to networks. All of them, apart from Fox Kids, at best thought it was too silly to work, even in adaptation, that or too violent. This is definitely a problem still when MMPR first aired. The action got a lot of parents complaining, even having the show banned in several countries. Anyway, Margaret Loesch, then head of Fox Kids, sought a new product that would be adventurous, fun and silly, and shared the same conviction as Saban that Sentai could be adapted and be successful. This was especially true after Margaret Loesch's child saw the pilot and gave his approval. So indeed, thank you, Margaret Loesch's kid, wherever you're at. Saban's idea was unique at the time, especially compared to other superhero shows like X-Men, but also Batman the Animated Series. Both of those are age appropriate, but they also have a definite edge and maturity to them too. Think more the 60s Batman, mixed with Voltron and Japanese monster movies, and Power Rangers is the result. With Power Rangers, whatever year it comes out, they tend to use the Sentai from the preceding year. The show started in 1993 and used footage from the last season completed in Japan in 1992. This has mostly been the constant in the making of Power Rangers, but let's talk about the initial season's production. The concepts for MMPR went through a fair bit of refining, the type of show both Saban and Fox wanted, for one thing, but even just the title, Rangers, was always going to be included, inspired by what Sentai often does, but it was originally going to be called Dino Rangers, also Galaxy Rangers at one point. Saban evidently held on to those titles, recycling them later on with Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, and then initially Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Power Rangers has many dinosaur-themed seasons, and corresponding names that have Dino as a prefix in the title. Dino Charge, Dino Fury, etc. But quick committee thinking named the first season. It was just going to be called Power Rangers, which sounds snappy by itself, but they wanted a title with the same number of syllables as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, named by Hayao Saban, came to be.
Yeah, right, and I'm a Ninja Turtle.
It wasn't intentional, but the name Morphin...
That means to change.
Yeah, it sounds like morphine, but that mustn't have occurred to anyone making the show back then, and so it stuck. For the first 3 seasons. On the subject, something I'd love to do for as many Power Rangers seasons as possible is talk about a Power Rangers show, and then compare it with the Sentai show it uses footage from, going back and forth between Japanese and American television, and finding the virtues and vices in each one. That will be the video I do in follow-up to this one. Before getting into the first season, let's talk about the pilot episode, made not for public consumption, although it was eventually shown on TV as part of a behind-the-scenes special. The episode is a rough version of what would be in the actual first episode, so I'm better not talking about how similar these episodes are, but how they differ. Instead of a gym and juice bar, the main social gathering point in the pilot is a bowling alley.
Excuse me! Trying to bowl a strike over here?
Also the cast, their characters are definitely more energetic teens with attitude, other than David Yost, who's nerdier here as Billy, and with different glasses.
How prodigious.
And Austin St. John, who dials it back, partly as sadly he turns in a bad performance in my books.
Use your crystals to activate the dino power now!
But it's just the pilot. His acting only improved from here in the Power Rangers franchise.
Come on, Ranger!
Anyway, speaking of the cast, the initial call was for a show called Phantoms.
Phantoms? Like the movie with Billy Zane?
Good guess, but wrong.
Which is a weird working title, I'll be completely honest. But the idea of what kind of show the actors would be in came across. They wanted people with a Beverly Hills 90210 look. Gymnastics and/or martial arts experience was essential, and they needed to be 18 but play younger. Way to combat those child labor laws, guys. The auditions narrowed down to 2 casts. A tall, model-looking cast, and then the one that Saban wanted, which is the talent we had ultimately. I'll be drawing fleeting comparisons to Saved by the Bell in this review.
Saved by the Beat.
As that show was on its way out by the time Power Rangers came in. Much like 90210 as well, actually. Both of those shows have enjoyed revivals long after the fact, which just goes to show the popularity of them. Also the 30-year cycle of nostalgia, where, after said time frame, things come back into style or relevance, explaining why things are the way they are in Hollywood at the moment, with the 90s becoming cool and profitable again. In the 90s, Power Rangers virtually replaced the popular teen-tween sitcom, which is its own kind of American TV, also bridging the gap between that and the sci-fi anime show Voltron, updating the combiner mecha concept into live action. I don't know if I can call Power Rangers everything the TV show, but it draws on a lot of disparate parts and makes them work. Something I won't talk about, however, is Beverly Hills 90210 in comparison to Power Rangers. Partly as admittedly I've never actually seen it, so what do I know? But also, based on a quick Google search, I feel it's too mature and serious, relatively speaking, to be compared to MMPR. You see? That show goes places Power Rangers dare not go. Unless we're talking about the 2017 reboot film, but even then. Anyway, the cast is the same, with the exception of Trini. Incidentally, you do hear ADR from Tweed Trang.
Trini here, ready to rock.
But in the pilot, she is played by Audrey Dubois. She's a tough, high-spirited, tomboy, stand-up-for-herself kind of girl.
All right, dweebs, dance!
I do like her take on Trini. The cast in the show proper is iconic, but it could have been interesting seeing her as Trini in the show. Dubois left the show after the pilot due to a pay dispute, and this issue is why she, along with many Power Rangers actors, left the franchise. With exceptions, but those stories will be told accordingly as needed. Dubois has appeared at Power Morphicon in recent years, receiving recognition for what she did, which is wonderful, although she's never come back to acting in general, it seems, despite still being part of the show's history. Another character played by a different actor is Skull, his actor being a stunt actor, not a character actor, and looks more like a 50s greaser than an 80s punk. Also, Bulk is the sidekick in this version, and looks like a hillbilly Winnie the Pooh or something with his costume. Another budgetary difference is the teleport effect. It's cool, but it looks like a morphing, distorting effect of the actors as they get sucked up out of picture. A better, more creative, if odd choice using reworked Zyuranger opening titles footage is the CG morphing effects of the teens turning into puppet animals, and dinosaurs that go along with their Ranger identities. I love this visual, but it means all the actors change in very unflattering ways into these creatures. The command center is rougher, made on a limited budget. It's very 80s with neon that has a limited green, blue, pink color scheme. Zordon, instead here named Zoltar, which was changed due to copyright, as Zoltar was the name of the wish-granting machine from Big, starring Tom Hanks, which is another Fox product, but whatever. They made the right choice, as Zoltar sounds cool, but I like Zordon more. The Rangers' Zords are derived from their mentor's name, and let's face it, Zolts or Megazolts are lame names. Zordon looks like he's in a lava lamp, but his head and tube are green instead of blue.
Hey, greenhead!
Alpha looks similar, but his costume is flimsier. I know, budget. The morphers are called transmorphers, and the morphing sequence uses Zyuranger footage with American footage awkwardly overlaid. Plus Rita's telescope vision is different, not that it wouldn't vary this season, however. The putties are designed the same as the Zyuranger foot soldiers, but the actual costumes are different. In adapting Zyuranger, all usable footage was extracted, and a team of writers hired to craft stories, based on a found footage aesthetic. So that was the rough pilot.
So what's next?
Now let's talk about the actual first episode, Day of the Dumpster. The pilot was also called this, but here's the real deal. Starting with the iconic intro, need I say more? It's so 90s, I love it. In TV productions, the intro is done last. Very helpful to the MMPR intro, which uses a lot of American footage from different episodes, plus Zyuranger footage. The intro would change, reflecting story developments, like the introduction of Tommy Oliver, new Zords, and Zord combinations, depending on where we were story-wise, similar to the Sentai. So after 10,000 years of imprisonment in a space dumpster, Rita Repulsa, great alliterative supervillain comic booky name, her and her minions are freed by two unsuspecting astronauts.
Unsuspecting astronauts.
And so now,
Time to conquer Earth!
the command center, or the Brandis-Bardin campus retreat building of the American Jewish University in California, is matted atop Vasquez Rocks.
This show is like so Californian.
The command center is iconic and instantly recognizable. It just goes to show that Marilyn Manson, who filmed his music video for the Dope Show here, well, he knew what he was doing. Take something you know, look at it differently, question it.
So that you're not always taking things for granted.
All right, noble.
But anyway, Zordon, portrayed by David Fielding, he is privy to Rita's escape and instructs his robot best friend Alpha to
recruit a team of teenagers with attitude
to combat the villains, in the form of Jason Scott, Zachary Zach Taylor, Billy Cranston, Kimberly Hart, and Trini Kwan. The teleportation effect of the teens arriving in the command center is from the first episode, and is very specific to this show, very analog, optical, and pre-digital, which is part of the show's charm. Cheaper, certainly, but it goes along well enough with the special effects in the Sentai footage to make it feel uniform. There are digital effects this season, but they're few and far between. This isn't the first Power Rangers movie after all. Or even the reboot movie. With Zack's Power Morpher, the shine of the coin and the quality of it shows they used the toy versions at the time. Interestingly, it looks like what Hasbro, who owns Power Rangers now, it looks like the toys that they make, as opposed to the legacy toys that more closely resemble the Zyuranger footage. For the US adaptation, the morphers say Power Rangers, whereas the Sentai version reads Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. In fact, if you look closely, you can see the Rangers' weapons say Zyuranger. This is a quirk of the process of adapting Japanese television for the Western world, by making said Japanese show not look Japanese. A behind-the-scenes mandate that had to be followed. That goal was often reached, but there are exceptions. The hell is he doing there? The effect of Jason morphing is iconic, even if it kind of looks like a cardboard cutout appears on top of him. It's a Photoshop After Effects job with the suit against green screen, but again it's charming. Given time, budget, and the standards of 90s television. Here's a seizure-inducing moment. Sorry, wrong clip, but you get the idea. We see bits of the Power Rangers logo form as flashing cards for 2 frames, as the Megazord forms. The MMPR logo appears as lightning strikes and the chorus plays. Great colours. Pure hues of primary and secondary colours, with a little bit of pastel colour too. The black background helps them all stand out more. I love how the Power Rangers text has fire internally before turning green. The O in power has a lightning bolt, like a major part of the logo has, which makes it look like a power coin. Roll call credits. American footage on the left with a freeze frame of our characters. How 80s. I know this was filmed in 1992, but still. Clips with the Rangers and their weapons appear on the right, each clip split by a central vertical line, very anime, the line's colour going along with each Ranger's colour too. We see the morphers with the cast members inside, holding their morpher props aloft, with Ron Wasserman's Go-Go Power Rangers theme amazing. Let's talk about the theme song. Ron Wasserman,
which means waterman in German.
He created this masterpiece in 1 2.5-hour session, as sometimes that's just how artists work. Even though this is a kid show, he wrote the theme to appeal to adults, which shows great musical vision. He had free rein on the song, the only suggestion being to use the word go, as Saban had previously had success with that, with Go Gadget Go, the Inspector Gadget theme. Wasserman had influences from Black Sabbath to Iron Maiden, but also Van Halen, which features strongly here. He even sang on it, having never sung on anything before recorded to tape. It's important to note that while we hear guitars, they were all created on a synthesizer with guitar sounds Ron had developed, as he does not play guitar himself, rather the piano and keyboard. It's a near-perfect effect in the opening theme. The closing theme has a note progression that one can imagine being played on a keyboard, but otherwise perfect. Previously, Wasserman had only sung on demos as guides for the actual singer.
So my high harmony is, if you listen, it's really flat.
Even still, Fox and Saban heard it, loved it, and Ron became the singer. We see a sunbeam of sorts coming from the morphers, and a solid background of buzzing electricity, colour-coded to match each character. The morphers are a little transparent due to how they're optically incorporated into the shots, the way the light comes from them, but they look cool. The rule of cool conquers all, especially in the 90s. We see the Zords flash by, then a freeze-frame group shot of the team with their power coins taken from the Sentai. Major stars of the franchise, Farkas Bulkmeyer and Eugene Skullovich are credited.
Very German sounding names, or something European. Or Jewish, at least.
This beloved duo is played by Paul Schreier and Jason Narvi, respectively. Their clip with them waving their candy floss. I say candy floss, not cotton candy, as I'm from the UK. Go figure. Bulk and Skull's nicknames comment on their body types. Bulk is big and bulky, Skull is skinny and bony. Gotcha. Here's a bizarre early memory. Bulk and Skull's candy floss, I always thought they were waving raw chickens, which doesn't work as chicken doesn't break apart like that, raw or otherwise. But, you know, they're bullies and anarchists, it's in their nature to do that. But I think I only interpreted this that way as it flashes by really quickly. Plus I was watching it on VHS, yes, I am that old, so it was harder to see what was really there sometimes. Some awesome footage of the Megazord formation, title card, and boom. Intro is exactly 1 minute. How economic. I wish my videos could be like that.